So I got a question about side hustles, which I guess you could say I've done a lot of. So I'll narrow it down. Here are 3 ways I made money during my genomics PhD, aside from the stipend, all of which took advantage of and developed my bioinformatics skills. The first time I ever made money online was my little Plotting an R for Biologists course. This was my first experiment with entrepreneurship, and it still holds a very dear place in my heart. I remember spending 1 weekend writing the course and 1 weekend filming it. I initially sold it for $29 and made 3 sales, but I realized I had no marketing plan beyond tweeting about it once, so I thought it was a shame to keep it behind a paywall when it could help so many people otherwise. Nothing like this was out there at the time. So after about a month, I put it out for free on YouTube, and then people could pay what you want on the Gumroad platform that I was using to sell it on. And they could get the scripts and downloadable videos. They can always plug in $0, and most people have done that, but enough people have put in actual dollar amounts that it made $504 in the first year it was up. And now 9 years later, it has cumulatively made $4,000, which is not bad for 2 weekends of work. And a lot of actually learning R and so on to get it out there. It's funny because it didn't make that much money, but I still consider it a success because it showed me that it was possible and felt really rewarding to build something with my own 2 hands and share it with strangers on the internet, and for them to actually pay me for it. Like, that's a really weird feeling, and it was really, really nice, and I think I still really enjoy that, so that's why I still make things and sell them on the internet. Another benefit of this experience was that it pushed me to learn what I was teaching in more detail. Any teaching experience will give you that, but I really had to find the best way to do something instead of a hack that would be embarrassing to explain in a video, which is key. Don't teach if you're just gonna share what you already know, if you're not willing to take the extra step of finding the better way to do something, because then you're really robbing yourself of the learning possibilities of teaching. I do highly recommend making a course on something you know and going that extra mile to get better at it while you're teaching it, especially if you find yourself having a hard time finding a job or you need some extra portfolio pieces to demonstrate your skills. Making a course can actually not be that hard. Like, it's really fun. You learn a lot from it, and you just have to make it very direct, like plotting in R for biologists. It's very specific. I made 8 videos and I was done. The second way I made money during grad school was to do some freelancing. I was coding a bioinformatics visualization web app for a PI at another institution. They had gotten a grant, and my colleague, who you might know from this channel, Robert, had worked on the project, but he didn't have bandwidth to continue because his PhD project was taking time. And this was in 2015. From what I could dig up, and I don't have my old email, so I had to really do some sleuthing, like figure this out. It looks like I worked 61 hours, and I know I made $80 an hour, so I would have made just under $5,000 on this freelancing project. This also had the positive side effect of forcing me to learn more D3.js, which I was already using for my own bioinformatics visualization web app called SplitThreader. And D3.js is also what I used later for Ribbon and for Circa, and that might be about it. Oh, and Dot. Like, I've used D3.js for a lot of things, and it's been a really important skill set for me as I've been building out my portfolio of bioinformatics web applications. So this freelancing gig kind of pushed me to learn that skill fairly early on, and definitely contributed to me pushing through with learning it, I think. I am not sure how everyone can get freelancing opportunities. You don't always have a colleague or lab mate who can hand you a project that easily. But one way is to just ask around your institution and see if other people, like if you just let them know you're looking for coding gigs and what type of work you can do, you may be able to find something that way. Or if you want to take a crack at Upwork, I've heard that can at least be really interesting and you might learn something. But it's also okay to just focus on your PhD and chill. Research is plenty of work and you may not need to do any freelancing. So don't take this video as something extra you have to think about. I do think something like making a course is really fun though. Like that doesn't take that long, and nobody has to give you permission to start, which with freelancing, somebody has to pay you. So you have to figure that out first. And that's sometimes a lot harder than simply spending a couple of weekends building an entire course from scratch and putting it out on the internet. I certainly got a lot more opportunities once I started putting my portfolio out there. So I think these portfolio building things are the best. Now, the third way I made money during my PhD was simply taking an internship in industry. Now, this is actually more of a pseudo-internship. So I had connections through my research to PacBio, the long-read sequencing company, and I don't even remember if I brought it up or they did, but we ended up agreeing that I would come work for the summer at PacBio for 3 months-ish, I think it was 3 months, in California, and they would pay me for it. I was essentially contracting for them because they didn't have a real internship program, and I had to get permission from my PhD advisor and the PhD program, but they ultimately allowed it, I think because it was so well aligned. I had literally been using PacBio data the whole time in my PhD so far, and I knew I wanted to go into industry, and so having an industry internship experience would be really valuable for my future career. So I'm really glad I got to do this. I think the freelancing, I definitely was able to leverage that $80 an hour to argue that I should be able to make more than, I think it was like $34 an hour or something that they initially offered. So I got $50 an hour. And for the whole summer, that came out to be that I made $26,800. While I was there, I explored various visualization ideas that would be helpful to PacBio's customers, and I settled on building Ribbon, which you can visit at genomeribbon.com. PacBio was totally happy for me to open source Ribbon and include it in my PhD thesis, so it just became one of the papers. Like I wrote a paper on it and everything, and it just became part of my PhD research and is open source to this day. And it's great because it was a great addition to my project, which was already about using long reads to investigate structural variants, and Ribbon is like the best tool for doing that I think still exists to this day. So I loved that work and it was really valuable to me, and it became part of my research for my PhD, so it was really a win-win. Another side benefit of that is that in those 3 months, I wasn't working on my main PhD project, at least not explicitly. So I kind of got to take a step back from that and focus on just building a tool instead of going back and forth between building tools and trying to do analysis on the command line and like running all these bioinformatics pipelines and communicating with people about whether we should add Sanger sequencing to verify variants and all these types of extra things that might be going on in the research. It's nice to step away from that and just focus on building one thing. I had a lot of fun for this video, just going back in time and digging up all the numbers for this, because I really wanted to make sure that I could share real numbers when I'm talking about making money online. There's so much, there's so many people who are like convincing you that they can teach you how to do it, and I'm never gonna sell you a course on how to make money online. That would just be silly. There are way too many of those out there already, and I didn't need any of them to do what I've done so far. Although I have absorbed a lot of that free content. So one thing I can give you is 9 years of experience later. here's what really matters to me looking back on these experiences. It's not so much the money, because future jobs paid more, and once I finished my PhD, I was definitely making more money than I ever did during my PhD, regardless of how many side hustles I could have possibly strung together. So I think it was more important to me to have the experience of building things, building up my portfolio, and just getting some work experience, honestly. Things like plotting an R for biologists gave me the confidence in knowing that I could build things and put them out there. And that is what ultimately led to me making this YouTube channel that I still value, even though it has been somewhat neglected in the past. And I and Robert are trying to do better about that now. But it's always been near and dear to my heart, all of these little things I've done. And the ways in which I've put myself out there a little bit and been trying to have an impact more broadly beyond whatever company I'm working at. That's always been important to me. And this was the beginning of it. So that's all I wanted to share with you today. If you want to see what I built after plotting an R for biologists, I think the next big thing was Circa, and now it is 7 years after launching the original Circa. We just relaunched it. So you can click here to see the Circa launch video that we just put out a week or two ago. All right, thanks. Bye.